My girlfriend doesn't know I speak Japanese. She spoke it thinking I didn't understand. About 6 months ago I met this wonderful Japanese girl in uni. She had attended an international school in Japan and her dad had worked in the US for 20 years, so she maintained native level English and was able to study abroad here in the US very easily. Anyway, we hit it off really well and have a ton of things in common and became very close over the past few months. We often hang out at each other's places to watch anime or play video games, but so far it has been a very friendly and platonic relationship. Recently, I've begun to develop feelings for her, but I haven't really been able to muster up the courage to ask her out yet. I've been shot down several times in the past, so I've been very hesitant to going through confessions and heartbreak all over again. What I didn't tell her was that I had been learning Japanese on and off for about 6 years now. I'm very self-conscious and unconfident about my abilities, and the topic of me speaking Japanese never really came up, so I never mentioned it. I'm not exactly fluent, but I can understand a fair bit, and even though my speaking skills aren't very good, I can get around Japan perfectly fine, having spent a month there for travel. I also scanlate, provide free translations online, for manga on the side every once in a while to keep my language skills up, but I never really told her about it either. A few weeks ago we were watching together when she had to take a call from her mother and excused herself to the kitchen to speak with her. I decided to play around on my phone while waiting, but I couldn't help but overhear the conversation she had with her. Based on her responses, her mother was essentially teasing her for me being her boyfriend and why she hasn't asked me out yet. I overheard her say something along the lines of, "I want to confess, but I don't want to get rejected. I'm still thinking about when and how I'm going to do it." Naturally, I became very excited. I tried to keep a straight face and not ask about it, but my heart was beating out of my chest at that very moment. I didn't want to pry and decided to just wait until she would just bring it up naturally when she's ready. Later on, she mentioned that her mother would be coming into town on a Saturday to bring some stuff over. We are usually at each other's places every weekend for a brief period of time just to get caught up with the latest anime episode. Last weekend was the premiere of a new season for an anime called Kaguya-sama Love is War, which we had planned to watch together. I told her no worries, I will just be in and out of her place so that I don't intrude on her family time. While watching the episode at her place, her mother ended up coming in early, so I had no choice but to say hi. I don't really know what came over me, but when her mother introduced herself to me in Japanese, I also responded back in Japanese. Back when I was visiting Japan, I got very accustomed to Japanese greetings when I met up with friends over there, so when I met her mom the instinct immediately came back to me. She was an incredibly nice and polite person, and we had a full conversation about my major and future plans, etc. I looked back at my crush, apparently wide-eyed for me speaking Japanese to her mom, and I decided to excuse myself so that she could have some family time. Later in the day she texted me that she didn't know I speak Japanese, and I replied, "Well, you never asked." This was apparently the worst response I could have given because she got very angry. I didn't think this would be a huge deal, but I guess it did reveal that I understood what she was saying when she talked about her feelings for me to her mom over the phone. She ended up getting very upset about hiding an important detail from her, which I didn't think would make her so angry at me. She felt betrayed that I kept a secret like this from her for so long, and I tried to apologize, but she doesn't want to speak to me right now, and I feel like I just blew my chances. Do I say sorry, or let it just cool off? I don't feel like I did anything wrong, as I feel like me being able to understand Japanese shouldn't be a huge deal, but she's still upset with me and doesn't want to talk. What is the most disturbing thing you have ever discovered? 8 months ago I won $2 million on a lotto ticket. I gave my parents $200,000 each and kept the rest for myself. I started to browse the internet for houses that matched my liking. I found one and moved in. Everything was perfect. Some time passed again. My parents just left after visiting once again. It was about 6 p.m. I decided to head out for some dinner. I came home and started to get ready for bed. I laid in bed and fell asleep. I was awoken by what sounded like a scream outside my window. My eyes shot open. I watched the curtains move in the breeze as I listened to it echo in the night silence. It scared the crap out of me. My heart was in my throat. I started to calm down when I remembered that foxes made similar noises. "Effing fox," I murmured to myself. I started to drift off when it happened again. This time it sounded closer than the other. I sighed and got up out of bed. I was still a little on edge, but I pushed through the fear. I peered out the window towards the tall trees. I peered around, but to no avail. I looked at the hardwood floor for a second, then looked back up. Behind a tree around 100 feet away I saw something move. I gasped and then closed the window. I ran back to bed and hid under the covers. The reason for my panic was a story my grandpa told me when I was 14. He told me about a creature called a skinwalker. He described it as a large humanoid creature with dark skin and no hair. It can disguise itself as an animal or human and make sounds like a scream or mimic the voice of a loved one or friend to drag you in. The only way it could be stopped was to shoot it with a silver bullet. This idea was running through my mind. I stayed under the covers for about 10 minutes. There have been no screams since then. Over time I started to calm down. I had to use the bathroom, so I got up and walked towards the door. I stopped moving for a second to itch my ankle when I heard a whimper outside. I froze. It sounded like a dog or some other small animal. In my mind, I thought, "Stop being a wuss. It's probably just a dog or something. Skinwalkers aren't even real, you idiot." I snapped out of my haze and continued to the bathroom. I finished in there and walked out. Before returning to bed I peered towards my front door. Something was blocking the window. There is a porch light, so I could tell something was there. I thought that maybe it was a desk I ordered that might have shown up sometime after I went to sleep. I watched the mass for about 5 seconds when my heart dropped. I watched as the mass slowly shrank below the window of the door. I started to hear the whimper again, this time muffled by the front door. I laid my back behind the wall by the stairs and pulled out my phone. I started to dial the number of one of my neighbors, Paul. I called Paul because he is a professional hunter. He has a lot of weapons, so he was the best choice. He didn't pick up the first 2 calls but picked up the third. In a groggy, annoyed voice he said, "What? I need help. There is something at my door whimpering," I said, my voice trembling. "Like what?" This time he sounded more interested. I'm not sure. I think of some sort of animal," I said. "Hold on." I heard the phone scuffle around a bit, then he spoke again. "Looks like a small dog," he said. His bedroom window had a perfect view of my front door. "Please don't think I'm crazy, but I swear I saw it shrink," I said, feeling like an idiot. Dead silence. "Hello?" I asked. "Did you say shrink?" Yeah. "Why?" He paused for a moment and started up again. "Here's what I want you to do. Stay where you are. Try not to make any noise. If anything changes you need to tell me, okay? I'm gonna grab my rifle," he said confidently. "Okay," I whispered. About 2 minutes passed. I could hear Paul moving and doing stuff in his house. Finally, he came back on. "All right, I'm gonna open the window," he said. I peered around the corner and looked out the transom window. I could see his window slide open. I heard him rack his rifle. "All right," he said. I waited about 3 seconds until Paul spoke up again. I don't see anything there." As he said this, I realized that the whimpering had ceased. "I can't hear the whimper anymore," I said. "That's not good. Listen. I need you to make a decision. Either make a run for my house or I make a run to you." He exclaimed, "Well, you have the firearm, so could you come here?" I said. He sighed. "All right. I'm coming." He hung up the phone. About 8 seconds later I heard his front door opening from my bedroom window. It took around a minute, but finally, I heard a knock on the door. Relief washed over me. I started to walk down the stairs. About halfway down, Paul shouted out to me, "It's safe to come to the door. Hurry." I sped up and started to unlock the door when I remembered what my grandpa said. It can make sounds like a scream or mimic the voice of a loved one or friend to drag you in. I stopped in my tracks and started to back up from the door. I headed back up the stairs and decided to peer out my bedroom window. There in the street was Paul, not moving. I turned white as a ghost. The person at the door wasn't Paul. It was the creature. I didn't know what to do next, but I came up with a plan. I was going to distract the creature by throwing something behind my house. When I knew it was there, I was going to run out the front door into the street and grab Paul's firearm. When the creature comes back around, I will end it. If Paul knew what it was, he must have had silver bullets loaded. I grabbed a vase from the hallway and headed toward the bathroom again. I slowly started to open the window. I made sure the coast was clear and dropped the vase onto the ground. I heard the creature scurry away from the front deck. I quickly ran towards the front door. I unlocked it and swung it open. I made a break for Paul, who was now lifeless. I shouted at the creature, asking it to show itself. The road fell silent. After about 10 seconds I saw it galloping out from the side of my house on all fours. I raised the firearm and unloaded, closing my eyes. My eyes peeled open. The creature was in a fetal position on the ground, back onto me. This thing must have been 10 feet tall. It was huge. I racked the firearm and started to approach. Slowly but surely I crept my way up towards it. I was about 6 feet away. I raised the firearm again. The thing jumped up and ran away into the woods, whimpering the whole way. Finally, this thing was over. I pulled out my phone and called 911. I explained what happened, not expecting them to believe me. "What was the nastiest thing you have ever done?" "I used to attend a gym and quickly developed a crush on a beautiful girl. We're going to call this girl L. This girl was fairly tall, had fair skin, beautiful curly blonde hair, and had the best figure in the gym. She was always playful and had a vibrant personality. Every guy tried to talk to her, but they were all rejected. I tried making small talk, but it never went any further than a simple hello." This was around the time I began fantasizing about stalkers. A few months into obsessing over her, I could not take it. I went online and found some sketchy websites, other stalkers talking about their experiences. I went on to ask them questions about how to go about it, how to make sure you don't get spotted. I went all out. Little by little I found out information about her, about where she lives, where she studies, what she studies, her hobbies outside the gym, and the more I knew, the more I loved. I found out about her little quirks, her hobbies. I would stay up all night browsing her social media trying to figure out where she would be. I would watch her as she entered the gym and would make sure to be there when she leaves too. Eventually I found out that she was going on holiday in Paris with her mother. From my discoveries, I found out her dad left and their house was vacant. The night they left, I broke in, picked the lock. Luckily for me, there were no security alarms. I snooped through her room, found her clothes, her unwashed ones too, and stashed them to use for my own pleasure. I left. I came back the next day, and the day after, collecting more items. I would use her toothbrush and imitate being her. I wanted her more than life itself. I even succumbed to the urge of licking the ends of her adult toys. I would go through her bins. I found used tissues and admired them. They looked so divine. I found her nail polish and daydreamed about how pretty she looks getting a manicure and pedicure. I could not hold it anymore. I sat on her bed and rubbed one out there and then, but not before lightly staining the bed sheets with my fluids. I realized I had messed up and used my best to clean it out. I was able to do so successfully. I kept doing this until the day they returned. To my great disappointment, when I came by on night number 6, the car was there. I decided I had done enough damage and never went back, but I still keep all the items I took. They are my prized possessions. I see her in the gym, doing her exercises, completely unaware of me, and that brings me joy, as I can love her from a distance, and that is enough for me. No work-related errands at lunchtime? Okay, From time to time we have immediate needs for random items in the office, so when that happens, I make a quick run to get the needed item while I'm already out at lunch. This is not in my job description, nor anyone else's. Someone at corporate orders regular office supplies, and that covers most of our daily needs. I've been working here for years and just took it upon myself to fill special orders, since I'm the only person in our office location with a company credit card. Just trying to be helpful, right? I had to special order some paper, which required me to go to the office supply store. It took about an hour. Like I said, I've been doing this for years with no issue and my efforts had always been appreciated, so I didn't think anything of it. When I returned to the office, I was called in to explain my long lunch to my boss. I told him where I was and showed him the receipt for the paper, but to my surprise, he was still upset. He said all office supplies have to be ordered through corporate. He also said I could no longer use the company card without his okay. My coworkers sent me requests. I just told them they needed to contact corporate. Because many of these requests were specific to our department, I was the only one who really knew what was needed. So of course the orders got screwed up, and often took a week or more when they were needed the same or next day. People making twice my salary have been tied up with supply orders and certain projects have been put on hold until special order materials arrive. Sometimes the items we've gotten are not what we requested, so that causes even more delays. Coworkers are getting frustrated and angry. I could easily resolve these issues, but I've been told to stand down, so that's what I'm doing. I'm anticipating my boss will want to undo his new rule as the outcry gets louder, but it's really not my job. I was just doing it as a favor. I'm sure the experts at corporate can figure it out.